Is being the tallest player in basketball history enough to make it in today's hyper-athletic NBA? Or are we looking at the biggest bust of all time? That's the million-dollar question keeping NBA scouts up at night. 7 feet 9 inches? That's not just tall. That's ducked through every doorway you'll ever see levels of tall. Meet Olivier Rioux, the Canadian teen sensation who's already breaking records without stepping foot on an NBA court. We're diving deep into the 10 make-or-break factors that'll determine if Rioux becomes the next Yao Ming or the next Sun Ming Ming. And trust me, number 7 will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about basketball. The size factor. At 7 feet 9 inches, Rioux isn't just tall. He's making Giannis look like a regular at your local LA Fitness tall. But here's where things get interesting. He's currently tipping the scales at around 250 pounds, which might sound massive until you realize that's relatively lean for his height. For comparison, Boban Marjanovic at 7 feet 4 inches weighs 290 pounds, and even he sometimes gets pushed around in the paint. The real concern here isn't just his height, it's the complications that come with it. We're already seeing mobility issues similar to what turned Taco Fall from a viral sensation into a G League regular. And let's be real, in today's NBA, being tall enough to change light bulbs without a ladder isn't enough anymore. But here's what the casual fans aren't seeing. Rioux's frame could actually support another 40 to 50 pounds of muscle without compromising his mobility. The question is, can his joints handle that kind of weight when he's running up and down the court 82 games a season? Now hold on to your headbands because what's coming next might just change how you see the entire game. The speed game. In today's NBA, centers need to move fast. The days of plotting big men camping in the paint are as dead as the triangle offense. Just look at how Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic have revolutionized the center position. These guys are out here running fast breaks and throwing no-look passes like they're point guards in 7-foot costumes. Now, Rioux can cross the court in about 3 steps, which sounds impressive until you realize his lateral movement is about as quick as Zion's weight loss. In today's pick-and-roll heavy NBA, that's a bigger red flag than the Knicks' playoff hopes. But here's what's fascinating. His straight-line speed isn't terrible for his size. The problem comes when he needs to change direction. You think Steph Curry is losing sleep over this matchup? The only thing he's worried about is whether his shot will go over or around Rioux. Speaking of skills, what I'm about to tell you next had scouts dropping their clipboards. The skill ceiling. Unlike Victor Wembanyama, who moves like a guard trapped in a giant's body, Rioux's current skill set is more stand tall and hope for the best. But here's where it gets interesting. His touch around the rim is softer than James Harden's defense in the playoffs, and he's shown flashes. I'm talking brief. Blink and you'll miss them moments of actual footwork that would make Hakeem Olajuwon nod in approval. The key word here is potential. Right now, his post moves are about as developed as Ben Simmons' jump shot, but his coordination is surprisingly decent for someone who probably has to special order everything from his socks to his ceiling fans. The real question is, can he develop the skills needed to survive in today's NBA, where even centers are expected to hit threes and defend on the perimeter? But before you make up your mind, wait until you hear about his secret weapon, the defensive potential. Now, this is where things get spicy. In an era where defensive versatility is more valuable than crypto, Rioux's mere presence in the paint is enough to make drivers think twice. We're talking about a guy who can block shots while checking his phone. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The NBA isn't just about protecting the rim anymore. Just ask Rudy Gobert how fun it is to get dragged out to the perimeter by stretch fives. Modern NBA offenses will target Rioux like Twitter trolls target Russell Westbrook's shot selection. However, there's a silver lining that nobody's talking about, his wingspan. At nearly 8 feet, his standing reach is higher than most players' vertical leap. That means he doesn't need elite jumping ability to be an effective shot blocker. He just needs to master positioning and timing, something that's actually teachable. And speaking of learning curves, wait until you hear about the next factor. The conditioning factor. Let's address the elephant in the room, no pun intended. Conditioning for a 7-foot 9-inch player is about as challenging as explaining the NBA's salary cap rules to a 5-year-old. Every extra inch above 7 feet brings exponential stress on the cardiovascular system. Current reports show Rioux can run the floor for about 3 to 4 minutes at a time before needing a breather. In the NBA, that's like bringing a flip phone to a smartphone fight. But here's the plot twist. His conditioning has improved dramatically over the past year. We're seeing him play longer stretches without looking like he just ran a marathon in a sauna. The real question is, can he get to a point where he can play meaningful minutes in today's fast-paced NBA? Even Joel Embiid had to overcome conditioning issues, and he's practically a point guard compared to Rioux. But hold up, because what comes next might be his biggest challenge yet. The injury prevention game. History isn't exactly kind to players over 7 feet 3 inches. Just ask Yao Ming or pretty much anyone who's ever had to duck through a standard door frame. The taller they are, the harder they fall, and the more likely they are to get injured. Rioux's medical team is already implementing a revolutionary training program focused on joint stability and core strength. They're treating his body like a skyscraper. It's all about building a strong foundation. But here's the kicker. They're also using cutting-edge technology to monitor his movement patterns and stress levels in real time. Think about it like this. His body is basically a basketball science experiment. Every step, jump, and landing is analyzed thoroughly. Now get ready for the game changer that nobody saw coming. The evolution factor. Here's where things get wild. The NBA has evolved more in the last decade than any other time frame. Teams are playing faster, shooting more threes, and switching everything on defense. So how does a 7 feet 9 inches traditional center fit into this new world order? The answer might surprise you. Rioux's development team is working on a revolutionary approach. Instead of fighting evolution, they're trying to weaponize his unique attributes. Imagine a pick and roll where the screener can literally see over the entire defense. We're talking about passing lanes that haven't existed since NBA 2K glitches. But here's the real shocker. They're not just working on traditional big man skills. They're incorporating elements of guard play into his development. Yes, you heard that right. They're teaching the tallest player in basketball history to handle the ball. It's either genius or madness, and I'm here for either outcome. But before you decide if this is brilliant or crazy, check out what's next. The mental game. Being 7 feet 9 inches isn't just a physical challenge, it's a mental marathon. Every time Rioux steps onto a court, he's got more eyes on him than a LeBron James decision special. The pressure isn't just about performance, it's about being a literal giant in a world that wasn't built for you. Now here's where Rioux might actually have an advantage. He's been dealing with this attention since he was tall enough to use a kitchen counter as an armrest. Unlike many other super tall prospects who shot up suddenly, he's had years to adjust to being the biggest person in every room. His coaches report something fascinating. He's developed a surprisingly thick skin and a sense of humor about his height. That mental resilience might be more valuable than any physical attribute when it comes to surviving the NBA pressure cooker. And just when you think you've got him figured out. The development timeline. Here's a fact that's going to blow your mind. Rioux is only 18 years old. Let that sink in. While most kids his age are worried about prom, he's dealing with questions about being the next great NBA big man or the biggest bust in history. The development plan his team has put together is more detailed than James Harden's pregame routine. They're not just thinking about next year, they're looking at a 5-year timeline. The goal isn't to rush him into the NBA, it's about building a sustainable foundation. Each phase of his development is more carefully planned than a Danny Ainge trade negotiation. They're working with biomechanics experts, NBA veterans, and even ballet instructors. Yes, you heard that right. Ballet. Because when you're 7 feet 9 inches, grace isn't optional, it's essential. But before we reach our verdict, there's one more crucial factor to consider. The X factor. Here's the truth bomb nobody's talking about, Rioux's basketball IQ. While everyone's focused on his height, they're missing the fact that he sees the game differently, literally and figuratively. When you're 7 feet 9 inches, you got a perspective on the court that even NBA League pass cameras can't match. He's already showing signs of understanding positioning and spacing in ways that some veterans never grasp. It's like he's playing chess while others are playing checkers. Except he can probably see both boards from across the room. The real X factor isn't just his physical tools or his skill development. It's his ability to adapt and innovate. He's not trying to fit into the traditional big man mold, he's potentially creating a whole new prototype. So, is Olivier Rioux destined to be the NBA's biggest bust? The answer isn't as simple as a yes or no. It's more complicated than explaining the NBA's tampering rules. What we're witnessing could be either the evolution of the center position or a cautionary tale about the limitations of extreme height in modern basketball. But one thing's for sure, He's going to make every arena doorway look like it was built for hobbits, and his journey to the NBA will be more fascinating than a Kyrie Irving press conference. Whether he becomes the next great big man or not, he's already changing how we think about the limits of human size in basketball. Think about it. In a league where skill and versatility reign supreme, can sheer size still be a game changer? Or are we past the point where being the tallest is enough? Drop a comment below with your predictions, and don't forget to slam that like button and subscribe to catch all our future hot takes and cold facts.